All right, Mom. So this next guest that we have, we met at a global education conference in Beijing. Right, I'm 6'2", blonde hair. I tend to stand out, and then I took a look over and I saw this other guy that was 6'4", blonde hair. So he stood out even more, and I decided, okay, let's find out a little bit more about who this is. And it turned out that he was very charismatic, very, very charismatic. And I thought, perfect for a podcast. And let's do a vlog. Let's find out who this guy is.
I
Uh,
remember when you met him, and you were. I didn't meet him at the same time, and you came back and said, "You got to meet this guy. You got to meet this guy." So we did meet him the next day in person. It was really cool. And Nathan, do you want to just tell us a little bit about Spencer and what he has done?
sure. So Dr. Spencer Fowler, he's a former professional athlete. Actually, last night I was watching him on YouTube playing hockey. Former firefighter, and then also an educational leader who presently serves as a CEO and superintendent of the affiliate high school of Peking University's Dalton Academy. So his academic career actually began at Queen's University here at Alameda, where he earned his Bachelor's of Honors in Film Studies and Bachelor's of Honors in Education. Spencer then spent the past 15 years working in the international education as a K-12 teacher and administrator. Now, I've spoken to him. He needs to take me to all these schools he's worked in. He's worked in Chile, Egypt, Germany, South Africa, Spain, Thailand, Vietnam, and China. And then he earned his master's and doctorate of education leadership along the way. So hopefully during this time, I can ask him as to, well, how can I follow his path? If not, I mean, we're gonna have to continue this conversation. So I've got some of my notes down here because I really don't want to miss it. So a lot of his research and concentrates on educational reform practices, bridging the gap between education and industry by connecting teachers and students to resources that tackle universal issues. His leadership style empowers teachers and students to have a voice and reach their true potential. This approach has led to the development of China's first access scholarship, which aids marginalized and displaced youth from the Middle East to complete their high school education in Beijing and obtain a full funding to attend university overseas. That's huge. So the approach has also led to numerous patents, businesses, and publications, academics and otherwise. So here I'm going to introduce to you the Canadian man with the Beijing plan, Dr. Spencer Fowler. All right, thank you.
All right. Okay. Would you like me to call you Dr. Fowler? Spencer, how would you like to be too?
Spencer. I mean, in our environment or our community that we work in, we all go by first names.
Awesome. Okay. Well, that's interesting. Now, when Nathan was calling out all the names of the countries you've worked in, I'm just wondering, how did you fit that in your life? Because it seems like an incredible number of countries. And how many years do you have? So what did you do? How did you get around the world like that and actually work in all these different countries?
Well, I fell in love with travel when I was afforded opportunities to leave home and play hockey. And I was playing hockey also professionally in Europe. And I really loved and appreciated being in a culture that was different than my own. Growing up in Kingston and coming from my own background and family, we're so mixed, from so many different backgrounds generationally. So for me, it was really special to be in a place where I didn't know the language and the culture and really wanting to immerse myself in that. And so I fell in love with travel and being in a place that was completely new and different, and being that outsider, really wanting to try to blend in and fit in. And education was, I think, the best avenue or platform to do that. And I had been traveling around the world in different schools and contexts, moving up the ranks and ladders of education, because there is that opportunity in international education.
That's neat. Now, you've ended up being the CEO and superintendent of one of the most, if not the most, elite high school in China. And I'd just like to know a little bit about how did you get there? How did you get there? Because this is really this is a huge achievement for you to be there.
Right. I mean, it's sort of by fluke. I mean, it was actually happening during a time where I was thinking about leaving the profession. because I had worked in the American and the international schools that cater to the foreign expatriates. These are IB schools and AP schools, and I felt that they were too structured, they were too traditional, and they really don't tap into the local culture. And I didn't really find like they're really providing anything that meaningful or inspirational. And so I thought, is this what I'm going to be doing? Is this what I'm going to be known for or not known for? I mean, what do I do with my own life? Because there's only a limited amount of time I have, and I really want to utilize it, through my own potential to try to push beyond, what's possible in general. And so at a time when my wife and I were looking to move on, I was introduced to a few people. One was a board member from Duke University who invested in a school project at the school. And so I was invited to then go on campus and have a tour and meet with students. And I remember initially I met with two students who started their own company, which is a school that's a school within our school run by students for students. And I was almost annoyed because I thought, well, where's the head of school? Where's the board members? Why am I meeting these students? And it sort of woke me up that here's a school that is completely off my radar, because I've been working in schools that are catering to expatriates. And like I said, IB and AP. And if it's not catering to the foreign students and has a lot of foreign faculty, then you're told to steer away from it. That's scary. Anything that's public or private outside of Canada or the US or the UK, you want to avoid it. But I visited the school, fell in love with the school, and saw that, wow, there's a lot of possibility here in education that I never saw before. That I saw students and faculty being empowered and entrusted to do things that I didn't think that they were capable of accomplishing. So for me, it was like finding my soulmate in career when I was afforded that chance to then have a visit and a tour.
That's what you've just described is a passion that you had of, and you said this word, I'm just going to look down because I wrote this down. You want to push beyond. Would you, I guess when I met you first, I saw you at this school that you just described. And in that school, when you were showing us around, you were showing us things that were very different to what you would call a typical school, especially in a high school. And where your passion is, and I know Nathan touched upon this really quickly, was the industry and education, and how do you mix the two? And you then, if you take that, I wanted to push beyond. Can you just describe what you have done then? Because you described what this school is about, but what did you do that helped push beyond, that is changing this? Because literally the whole world is watching what's going on in that school. You described situations where you would have an open house and you would fill up 2 auditoriums and people would still be watching it from outside, or somewhere else in video, because they're so interested in what's going on. So what are you doing? What did you bring to this that makes it so incredible, the school?
Right. Well, when I came, I saw that the school is so entrepreneurial, and there's an opportunity for students to be designing, creating their own learning, the courses that they want to take, even teach their own courses. So I thought, this is an amazing opportunity. I felt like it was trying to be more like an independent school back home, and that wasn't really a good fit. And so one of the things I started doing is hiring people outside of education, entrepreneurs and engineers, even a space engineer, doctors, lawyers, people in different industries to complement those who were working already in the school with an academic background. So we had the academic research, but then we also had students and faculty tinkering in the garage, working with different engineers and different resources. So it's not only researching about it and publishing about it, but then what else could we be doing on the ground that's going to make a huge impact to people? So for us, the evolution was, how could we extend the knowledge and skills that we're wanting our students to earn, to develop, to know, to understand, but then to put it to practical use. So everything that they're studying, there has to be a purpose behind it. So it's like a main tree, and the branches are, what are the students doing with that? And how are the teachers then helping and complementing and supporting, and who are they connecting them to, so that now meaningful projects are going to change the lives of other people?
So can you describe if I was going to go to school, to this high school, what would happen to me if I was a student? What would my year look like, or my day look like?
It would be different for every student. I mean, everyone's being chosen for a different reason, for different passions and skill sets. And we're bringing people in, both faculty and students, based on their true and authentic self, how they're going to then complement one another. So what is their purpose in life? What do they want to be known for? What are they going to be digging in? What are they so passionate about that they could be spending their day and their night and so much hours then focusing on that. So it's looking at people who really want to make a difference, and that they've demonstrated that in the past, and they're just looking for more opportunities to continue to have that passion being supported, and so we have the resources. We recognize that a school can't be functioning in isolation. When you go to most schools and you have departments functioning in isolation, teachers in isolations, and the school in general. But for us, there's no real boundaries or walls. So the students can pick and choose when they want to study, who they're going to study with, inside and outside the institution, and the projects they want to be a part of. So how many courses, when they're going to be there, and if it makes sense that they're in Jordan working with refugees in various camps and the UN and the Chinese embassy, then we would figure out then how for them to have the exposure and experience in the other courses that we want them to also have, that will also aid and complement what they're doing there on the ground.
So you just mentioned a couple of projects that some of your students did, which sound absolutely incredible. The fact that they get this experience. That was what really struck me there, is that you were able to combine the experiences with the fact that the kids are still getting the academic excellence and they still have to write all the exams and everything. You also mentioned that they had to go through some selection process before they came in. If you were a student now, and let's say you were at the age where you could be accepted into a program like this, what types of things should you be doing so that you could get into a school like this and be successful? And even if there isn't a school around like this, what could you be doing that you see differentiates these kids? What makes them pretty special so that they can do these types of things?
I mean, I think the closest thing to it that I've experienced would be in a doctoral program after you've done your comps, where then you're sort of empowered and set free to do that research that you care so much about. And then you're working with your advisor. I guess I would say that our program is so similar like that you have these advisors, both academic and then those from industry, to help you to realize these goals and vision. But, a main sort of the main focus is that not only are we trying to contribute to these different areas and disciplines with real impact, but also our job is how do we re-engineer education? And so it's the student's responsibility and the faculty's responsibility not only to try to, uncover different cures for cancer, but it's also how do we re-engineer and redesign the educational experience in general, And so it's constantly shifting and changing, and this experience being more virtual has also been refreshing for us. While some are panicking and it's been uncomfortable for us, it was really an easy and comfortable transition. So I'd say that it's students or individuals looking beyond what they're being given at school. How can they extend it? Who else can they be working with? Don't be satisfied with that sort of status quo traditional education. You have to be someone with a spark and fire, willing to reach out to the network within your school, within your family, within your community, even beyond that. So what is it? What's your purpose? What's driving you? And then, is it to be rich? Is it to be famous? If that's it, then that's not really an organic fit with our community. But is it to then better the lives of other people? And then sort of, what's that plan, and how have you been working towards that? Because a lot of our students come to our school, they've been stuck in traditional education where they haven't had the time to then experience this. They haven't had the time where they could even be themselves because they've had to follow a formula in China that makes sense in that context. And now we're saying we don't care about that. We're not prepping for any standardized exams. In fact, we don't even touch it. We encourage our students to just leave it all alone completely, because we would say that our program is undergraduate through doctoral level and beyond experience, plus in that industry side of things. So don't get caught up or bogged down by thinking that the SAT and ACT, these things are so important and meaningful. Universities are wanting students who are movers and shakers, but they want to know that you've done it. So how have you demonstrated it in the past?
So as a student then, is to take initiative yourself. And if you want to find something or go into an area, to actually push for it yourself. I think, I'm reading a book right now called Abundance. And one of the things that it stresses is the individualized learning and the ability to go out and drive for what, or really seek for what you want, and drive down yourself in those interests. And that's what you're seeing is allowing these kids to succeed too. Is that right? That they are able to to craft their own life basically at an earlier age.
I mean, 100%. I mean, they're in the driver's seat for that educational journey, and then they're supporting and complementing. They're in the co-pilot seat for their peers. And so, like I said, I mean, I've never seen a school where they're empowered so much. I mean, often then they go to university and they're disappointed because then it's now back into something traditional and it's less inspirational, and sort of they're back on a leash. So it's tough. It's tough to have that, and then to go abroad, go overseas, and then sort of get back in line with conventional teaching and learning, you know?
How much pushback, or, you know, like when you shifted everything, you know, how much pushback did you have? Like changing from that traditional to say, no, this is the new standard that we're going to be moving towards?
I mean, no, there wasn't any pushback from the board. There wasn't any pushback from Peking University or the parents, because Peking University is a lab university. The affiliated high school is a lab school. So we're meant to be avant-garde. I just recognized that we weren't being avant-garde enough, that we were being safe. And at the time, they were just trying to follow a model that perhaps would be unique to China, but it was just like an Exeter and Andover, a UCC, you know. But if you have students who are doing these avant-garde things, and they're demonstrating that they have the passion, they have the skills, and they were able to do things without much support. I mean, you had students who were getting seed money, you know, and they, you know, when I met a couple of students, they had over 500,000, a couple of months later, 5 million, and now they were 50 million, and they were doing that without anyone helping them or guiding them. And I think that's the issue with most schools, is that most of the teachers are teachers. You know, they've gone through their academic career to then teach. And I'm talking about a school that is disrupting that. So teachers in our school, I'll give you an example. An English teacher, they're writing and they're publishing, and then the students are then seeing that. They're seeing it in real time. You're seeing your art teacher making art. You're seeing your engineering teachers tinkering and designing things and making patents, and people with a business experience, they're running businesses. But what are students in general exposed to? They're not exposed to those kind of people with those backgrounds. I mean, I think that's the biggest shame, is that they're not seeing these teachers demonstrating their own skills and passion. They don't see them working on their own craft. They're just teaching to these tests and these exams. I think that's insane. What are we doing here? So it has to be that exposure. And then it would be, hey, I'm working on this project, and I'm now going to be bringing in other students or outside expertise to also complement that, or people within different disciplines in my schools. You know, it's your biology teacher teaching biology at a lab in Peking University where they're doing cancer research. You know, and then so there's that focus, the academic opportunities. It just continues to spread so far and so wide, and it all depends on then the students then, because I'm following your lead, and then now with the people and the expertise that you've now introduced me to, I can then, it's limitless, you know. But then you look at most education, there is that limit, there is that border, and it's stifling and it's unhealthy. But there isn't the expectation that teachers are going to be doing things within those areas. It's just teaching, and they're inundated. They're teaching so many hours and marking and grading, and as a student, you're studying so many hours and prepping. But how often do you have a teacher who says, I want you to write this paper, and I'm also going to write it with you. And then you're going to see me throughout that journey, being vulnerable and being real, and really demonstrating the knowledge and skills that I have, the talent I have within that. I mean, teachers would never make themselves vulnerable like that. So that was new to me, to then be a part of a community where they're willing to do that, you know, to really be the player and the coach, and to be peers, and to call each other by first names, to have that respect, to have that love and encouragement, because then people are willing to fail, and to fail forward, and to learn and to grow, and be like, this didn't work. But then as a community, you're there to be like, that was amazing. Now, I mean, I didn't even do my doctorate till joining the school, because I thought I can now. I was inspired to, because of the people I was working with, that anything's possible.
So there's a couple of things here. I just want to touch upon, first of all, is that students should be taking initiative themselves. I can remember when I was in high school and I was taking chemistry, and I said to my teacher, you know, I would love to go and see the police forensic lab and use chemistry with that. And so, all of a sudden we had a trip to the forensic lab here in Canada, in Toronto, and it was super cool. And I think what you're doing is you're basically bringing it so that the kids get to see and understand and actually concretely be there with other people. This is what it really means. This world really means it's not about a school structured box system that you're going to go into. One of the things that I'm very concerned about is that we're not preparing our kids for the future, and that we are preparing them to be test takers, not necessarily how to apply that information, and also not necessarily getting them ready for what the real world really is about. And part of that is to take initiative, to ask good questions, and to know that you've got the authority, the power to ask to go and do things. I think in your school, what you've done is open this up. Now, I'm going to take you just a little off to the side a little bit, because I want to explore you a bit. If you don't mind. And I think what you've done is something very different than a lot of people, most people in this world. The fact that you had the courage to take this school and to make it different, make it into something that is not normal, but yet you still had the courage to do it and the risk to do it. When you were growing up, what did it look like? Like, why are you like this person? And I want to get a sense for the kids, especially watching this. What was your life like growing up? And then, how did you get into this hockey league? And I think you should explain a little bit about that hockey league for people maybe around the other side of the world who really don't know what OHL means. Right. But if you can just describe even yourself as a young child, what you did, what kind of person you were, and then how did you get into this hockey and go up the levels that you went up to, and what makes you, Spencer, you?
Right. I think having parents that both did shift work, so one was working, one was sleeping, there was a lot of opportunity to be creative, to have to be looking after myself and making sure that I was staying out of trouble and staying active. And my parents saw ice hockey as a way for us, not just myself, to move from sort of that level or rung of middle class to something beyond, And it wasn't education. I didn't have any pressure or stress about education. They wanted me to do my best. But when it came to sport was, okay, this is our opportunity. You're big, you're strong. And I was excelling, and I kept climbing the ranks very young. So in elementary school, I was playing junior hockey. And when I got drafted to the OHL to St. Mike's, my parents were saying, this is your ticket. Yale University was knocking on the door saying, don't sign, don't play in the OHL, come and play and go to school. And we'll figure out how to make sure that you can be a student and an athlete, and then beyond that you can continue pursuing hockey. But at the time, that wasn't really the trend. More players were going from the OHL or the WHL, the major junior leagues in Canada, to then the NHL. Like, most of my friends did that. And so the amount of work it takes to make it into that league and then to stay in that league is incredible. So that work ethic, that passion, that drive you have to have. It's not working hard only when the coach is there and blowing the whistle. It's you have to be doing that on your own for most of the day, 7 days a week.
So when you say most of the day, how many hours? Just so that people have an idea of what it really means to work at that high performing level.
Oh, I mean, even in elementary school, you're talking 3 to 4 hours of tinkering and playing and refining, and that's one-on-one in the basement or in the backyard or at the school or working on your shot, or so there's never a day off. And then as you get older, I mean, even still in elementary school, I had an agent and a dietitian and a personal trainer, and then you're starting to, bulk up, get bigger, and because you're playing with guys who are much older than you. You can be in your early teens playing with guys that are 21, and so you got to be able to survive that physical play.
I actually heard that you came third place in a strongman competition.
I did. I mean, that's true. So, this is years and years later. Years and years later, I was teaching in Frankfurt International School, and I hadn't really been too active in the gym, but there was some muscle memory left, I guess. And so when I was back in Kingston for Canada Day, there was a strongman competition happening, and the people who were involved in that were they were giants, right? 100 pounds more than me for sure. And my friend was emceeing the event, and he said, hey, we have this ex-hockey player here. Do you guys want to see him try it? And so then I'm out there with those, hockey stick legs. But then I ended up coming third. And the one event that I did the best was the truck pull. I actually came first in that. But there was where you pick up the big cement balls and et cetera. So no, that was true. It was my one and only time I did it. I have still some scars from it, but it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. I mean, I definitely surprised people because hockey players don't have that physique of strongmen. But no, that was a lot of fun.
You're probably the leanest out there.
Yeah, absolutely. But no, I mean, it takes a certain personality, to push yourself and to take sort of that abuse. And you have to focus so much. So it's not like I'm going to be going out with my friends. I'm not going to compromise my diet. I'm going to be, you're all in. And I saw this as what's going to be very helpful and beneficial for me to provide a life that I would like to have, but also a life for my family as well. So I had that drive. And then when that didn't work out and I came back home and was firefighting, got into Queens, I had to figure out, what can I do that's going to be a different path, and I had to really look inside. What are my true passions? What is the kind of life I want, and what kind of impact do I want to make on the larger world? And so it took a lot of reflecting, and it wasn't easy. That transition from hockey to firefighting to I don't know what, which turned into education. It was a really humbling experience because people forget you really quickly. I was no longer signing autographs at Burger King. I wasn't being remembered very much, and then that sort of decreased to nothing. And so it was really an eye opener because being very young and in high school and playing in the OHL, you're this thing. You're this someone people look up to, and then all of a sudden for that to just fall out from under you. But it was good. It was good that it happened to me when I was still young, so then I could be like, put my focus into education. And again, there wasn't that pressure from my parents to pursue education. In fact, when I wanted to go to Queens, my family was saying, that's a waste of money. Why are you doing that? Why not, continue firefighting, join the military, get a job at DuPont or Alcan or these different factories. And I thought, I believe there's so much more in here that I could be giving. And no disrespect to that kind of work, because that's kind of work that most of my family did. But I just figured that I have a different path, that I should be on and pursuing. So it took a lot of convincing to my family, but I did that undergrad degree and then the ed degree and then the master's degree. And I remember when I was saying I was going to do my doctorate, they were like, when is this going to end? Because they saw education as just a piece of paper that once you have that paper, then you can get this kind of job. But for me, it was something so much more, and I had an opportunity to go from public school, Catholic public school, to St. Mike's and different schools because I moved around with hockey, so the public and private. And I did see a huge difference. And people don't want to talk about it in Canada because they would want to argue that they're the same, it's the same kind of teachers. But it was different. It was really different. I think the biggest difference was just the people sitting in and around me and the passions that they had with education itself. And I didn't have that when I was in the other schools that I grew up in. It was just trying to get by, just to get by, get through this, and then get a job, and I was working even when I was playing hockey, I was, driving forklift, or when I wasn't playing, or I would be doing a mason apprenticeship. So I was always doing things with my hands, the labor work, and I love that. I love that, and it keeps me humble, and I appreciate the fitness aspect of it too, and the art form of it. So I've always wanted to stay, to be grounded and to be rooted and to be humble, but education is like art. Education is like life, and it's just if we look at it differently and we allow it to flourish in a different way, I think that the outcomes are unbelievable. I mean, now I can't stop. So when I have people talking to me about other jobs and schools, it's like, how could I? You can pay me 4, 5, 10 times the amount, but I'm working with a group of people that are so passionate. They care so deeply about changing and reforming and reengineering education, and we're doing it and we're living it, and we're seeing that, wow, in real time, high school students and teachers really have the capacity and the capability to change the lives of other people. I mean, I'm seeing miracles happening, and I don't want to step away from that. I'd love to be able to help other people do that. And that's why we're open source. And that's why we're sharing, because we want other people to be better, do better. So then they can, because I look at education in the East and the West, and the comparison, you see more people here who are now looking at their education like padding their CV, like something that's very common and typical in China. But people here now, they're thinking about themselves and their own future and my career and my money and where I want to have an apartment and house, but they're not seeing it as something where I need to be sharing with other people. Or if they're volunteering, it's just to tick that box so that, Harvard, Yale, Princeton are going to then consider me. But they're not seeing the real value of that time where they're going to be engaging and working and collaborating with other people. So it's
Okay, so we get your passion. This is incredible. Okay, and I think for everybody watching here, and for students or even parents, it's not just about going to school to go to school, is what you're saying. And what I'm hearing from you is this passion that goes way beyond you, is much bigger than you, to make a difference that is much bigger than what you could do as a single person. But you also believe that this can happen as well. The other thing I heard from you too, which I think is so important, is that, you know what, you just kept at it, kept at it, kept at it. And you weren't going to sit back and watch movies all day. You actually were out there making a difference, even if it was for yourself to begin with, and then afterwards it was for others. But you certainly developed yourself, and it wasn't just developing yourself so that you could be the best hockey person. You actually have used all of that persistence, that rigor, that thinking I could do more, I could do more. And that's what I'm getting from you. And it's not just I can do more. There could be a bigger difference made here. And believing that bigger difference. I think this is something for everybody, all the kids out there watching, even parents, anyone in education. It comes down to that. Is that what you would say? Really, is what drove you to where you are? Because you've gone from a very athletic side. You did the firefighting, the education, and you've taken yourself right up into education, but you're also making a big difference in the world by being able to see conceptually, to change that conceptual understanding of what education's about. And that's really what I see you doing. Is that how you would describe it, as really one of your biggest impacts?
Right. I mean, I think education done well, then every individual can see inside themselves like that they're capable of doing so much more than they ever thought possible, that they can actually be that true and authentic self. And when you have that love and you have that support, then you're willing to take any risks, and you're willing to then be contributing to something much greater than yourself. And so I've had to figure that out on my own, but that passion that I have for what I'm doing now is so much greater than it ever even was for sport or for firefighting or for other things, you know?
That's cool. That's cool. And you also said take a risk. Then you had the courage to take that risk, and having that passion allowed you. That's really cool. And I think that's something that I'd like to just sort of leave people to think about. You know, what are the fears that are holding you back, I guess. And there's a lot of fears that we all have. And I think you've just, I don't know if you have any fears really, but by the sounds of it, what do you think, Nathan?
I don't know. I'll message him later and find out.
Maybe we could do that later. The work you've done, the passion is incredible. I really believe that people should be reaching out to you if they've got if they need to, because you don't stop for a thing. You just say, forget it, this is going to happen, and you just go and get it. I want to thank you so much for this. Unfortunately, we are running out of time here. I think there's lots of questions that perhaps kids could ask. And would it be okay if they asked, like if they even sent Nathan or myself some questions, and then we shot them out to you, like put them out to you, and then you could answer? Would that be okay?
Absolutely. And if I don't think that I'm the best person to answer, then I would like to then shepherd them to people who I think would even be more equipped to answer their questions or to even work with them. And I think that's what our community has done well. I mean, we have students who recognize that even within our community, there's only so much we can do. That's why we have to be trying to extend them or connect them to other people. And you have students who are co-writing things or co-working on things with people around the world. And that's what it takes, is being able to give and to take, and to be adding and supporting, sharing and nurturing. So I would love that, actually.
Awesome. Okay. Awesome. Good. Nathan, do you have anything else you want to ask?
I just wanted to say thanks, Spencer. Maybe I'll learn some of those strongman techniques later. But no, I wanted to say thank you. Hopefully we can meet up again. Yeah.
It was really amazing meeting you in Beijing. And I just want to say, keep going on your work. And everybody else who is listening, just send us questions if you want, because Spencer, he's got a big mind, he's got a big heart, and he's got incredible energy. I think energy for enough people to fill this room. So, so thank you so much. This is
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much.
Okay. Bye.
Bye-bye.
I thought that was a great story. I almost took it as his key to success has been pushing himself to be outside of his comfort zone, right? So when he talked about moving to Europe for hockey, he really enjoyed that because he was learning a new culture. He had to be in his surroundings where he didn't understand the languages, and so how do you overcome that? And I could relate a little bit moving from a small town in Canada called Peterborough to Toronto, where my high school had 96 first languages. I was sort of shocked by all the different cultures there was. And so I had to learn really quickly, well, how do I embrace this? How do I be agile? How do I actually, make sure that I'm not going to insult a lot of people? And so I took that skill, and it's helping me now when I travel around the world. To just really relate to people and build up that empathy.
I think you're right there, Nathan, with his ability to take risk. Wow. To travel around the world takes a huge amount of risk, to take your kids along with you, and even to try and get into the OHL and the Ontario Hockey League, that is, and to go overseas with that. Wow, the amount of risk they have. So I just want to remind everybody, if you've got questions to ask him, please shoot them our way, like send them our way and ask questions, because we can get the answers directly from him. He's got an incredible background. He's not only been an athlete, like a super athlete, where you heard people wanting his signature. Then he went to firefighting, and then he went into education. He's gone all over the world. He knows what it means to reach the top of the world. Send those questions in. Until the next time, I want to just say thanks again for listening, and catch you later.